What's going on YouTube? It's Ben, and I am back today for another review session for our latest reveals of Divine Champions Sunstrike. This week we got 16 new reveals between our official Elestrals video as well as cards that were revealed by some community creators. Starting off, we finally got the Boltuga Champion of Hephaestus. So this Boltuga allows your Hephaestus effects to also find fire counter runes. So this can now find Chains of Prometheus as well as a new fire counter rune that we will be talking about later. It's basically just the inverse of the Smoltuga Champion of Hephaestus, so that one lets you search out fire invoke runes, and now this is letting you search out fire counter runes. And then you can also disenchant fire from your field in order to special ascend this Boltuga to Vesuvituga from your hand or deck. So if you're able to get some extra fire spirits onto your board, whether onto this Boltuga, potentially with some effects that we'll talk about, or just loading up Hephaestus with 4 spirits, you can disenchant one of those spirits from Hephaestus and get into your Vesuvituga. And then we'll just recap Vesuvituga again real quick. So you can disenchant fire from your field in order to search your deck for an eruption or a champion of Hephaestus and add it to your hand. When you cast an artifact rune, you can enchant up to 2 fire from your underworld to anywhere on the field. So this Vesuvituga is going to go along very nicely with a new fire counter rune in that new eruption that we will talk about later, as that was revealed. So that's going to go along really well. So you're getting really good use out of the Boltuga and Vesuvituga as you search this new counter rune eruption with either the Boltuga from Hephaestus's effect, or you can wait, go into the Vesuvituga, disenchant from the Hephaestus again, and then search for specifically that eruption. Or if you've already got combo pieces in hand, you can search for another champion of Hephaestus and add it to your hand. And then since Hephaestus can already search artifact runes, if you're using Hephaestus to search an artifact rune instead, then you've got the ability to add more fire spirits from your underworld to anywhere on the field, and this will be important for that later counter rune. I think this is going to be a pretty strong and neat effect. This Hephaestus has really gotten some good support. I think these are actually 2 really good cards for his strategy. Next, we had Bellaby, Champion of Hephaestus, revealed last week in our Reforged Searcher. And now we have Infornax, Champion of Hephaestus, revealed. So this is a 6/5 Fire Wind, and you can expend Fire and Wind in order to draw a card for, or I believe this is Fire or Wind, to draw a card for each artifact rune in your rune row. So if you're able to load up your rune row with artifacts, so get a bunch to hand and then empower them onto this Elestral or other Elestrals, you're able to draw a card for all of those, which can be pretty good. Draw power is always good in games. And then Infornax also gives a very interesting second effect to double all attack and all plus attack and plus defense given by your fire or wind artifact runes, empowering this Infornax. So you can buff this Infornax up a ton, and we'll talk about a new rune that's going to be a lot of buffing as well. But just to say, for a current counter rune we have, you can have a Hammer of Hephaestus, a Torch of Hestia, you could have Caduceus of Hermes. I can't remember if Talaria gives an attack boost or not, but you're going to be able, I guess it doesn't matter since it's both, but yeah, or Talaria of Hermes, Bag of Winds, you're going to be able to any of those empowering this Infornax, and you're going to get double the boost. So this is really great. And it can become a very scary Elestral to deal with if you are able to keep it on field and load up artifacts into your rune row. Moving on, we have another create a card revealed, and this time it is a Nexus form. So we had Corva Shine originally, and then we got Corva Skull. Now we have the Fire Nexus form in Corva Smith. So it's a 2/4 1-cost Fire Elestral, and it says you can target a fire artifact in your underworld and put it on the bottom of your deck. So you're able to just freely return any fire artifacts that have gone to your underworld, which is pretty nice. Gets them back into rotation, even though there are cards that allow you to get them right back to hand. This is still another way to get them back into rotation into the deck, because you can then shuffle up and potentially draw it again. And the added effect to doing this, instead of adding it back to your hand, it says if you do, an opponent expends spirits, any spirit equal to the enchantment cost of the card you put back. So if you're doing a Torch of Hestia, you're going to burn for 1. If you're doing a Hammer of Hephaestus, you're going to burn for 2. And our new fire rune that we will talk about later, you could burn 3 spirits with this card just by putting that card back into your deck. So watch for this card to be really good late game. Once you've already used some cards, pop this out late game once spirit counts are low in a close game. Move that fire artifact back in. Your opponent's going to hope that they are able to Dense Fog immediately on cast before you can do this, or to be able to Gorgon's Gaze this Celestial. And moving on, we did not get any new water, no thunder, wind. We're going to have a lot of wind that is still left here, but then we're getting into the frost section, and we are rounding out our Hera here with the, of course, community heavily speculated Snowwaddle, Pangawat, and Imperawat champions of Hera. So the new Snowwaddle champion of Hera is a 3/4, 1 frost. Says that you can special ascend this Snowwaddle to an Elestral with enchantment cost 1 frost, 1 thunder from your hand or from your underworld if you also discard a card. So what cards can we target with this? Well, that would be Pangawat, our new Pangawat, Riceros, or our new Riceros. So we've got 4 different options to ascend into. It's not bad. This is interesting. You know, this Snowwaddle is now playing on getting cards into your underworld as well. So it's playing into a little bit of that frost side of stuff that likes things in the underworld, but being able to special ascend. So I don't think this is too bad of a card. And we have Pangawat, champion of Hera. So this is a 6/6 Frost Thunder. You can return Thunder from your field to your spirit deck. So another way to play off of Hera and returning stuff to your spirit deck in order to search your deck for a Frost or Thunder Avian Elestral and add it to your hand, or special ascend this Pangawat to an Avian Elestral from your hand that is not Pangawat. So this can go into any Avian Elestral. Yes, we're in Frost. Yes, Blistrix is a possibility, unfortunately. It won't have its effect because it would need 2 Frost and a Wind, and we're going to be Frost and Thunder right here. So unless there's an extra Wind sitting in there, an extra Frost, we're probably not getting into Blistrix to be able to do Blistrix stuff. But watch out, because that is always a possibility, especially if you combo this with like a Monsoon of Eurus or something. Could be very interesting. But I would watch out for this Celestial. It is very interesting to have 2 different things to be able to search the deck and add it to hand, or special ascend. So if you've already got the combo piece, you can go ahead and go into the Avian Elestral, or if you need to get the Avian Elestral, you can get it into your hand. So this is mainly meant to combo, again, with the Imperawat champion of Hera. So this is kind of our big beater from Hera. This is our second option in Hera in going into the Imperawat rather than the Imperial line. And this card's really interesting. I think it has a good flavor, sticking with what the old Imperawat did, but having a very unique effect. So when you cast this Imperawat, you can enchant up to 3 Thunder from your underworld to your Hera. So you're getting Spirit Recursion automatically, putting 3 Thunder back on the Hera. So this pumps up your Hera, gets more Thunder spirits on your board. Really nice. Can kind of save a low spirit Hera, or just get spirits back under set up for putting them back into the spirit deck on a later turn. When this Imperawatt enters battle, so you have to actually get into the battle step, you can Nexus up to 3 Thunder to it. So unlike the previous Imperawatt where you're able to basically Nexus all the spirits onto it and then disenchant for board wiping, this one allows you kind of like this one's kind of like a Waylance Champion of Keon that allows you to, which that card allows you to Nexus up to 4 Frost Spirits from your board onto it. This is different in allowing you to Nexus Thunder, the 3 Thunder, to it once it enters battle. So this is basically saying pull 3 back from the Underworld, put them on to Hera, then Nexus those onto Imperawatt. And then during your end phase, so after the battle has concluded, you move to end phase, then you can draw a card and Nexus up to 3 Thunder from this Imperawatt. So you're getting a card draw after this. You're gonna be up to 6 spirits on this Imperawatt potentially. You're gonna do who knows how much damage if you're going in directly in for 6, if you're going over an attack position Elestral. You can do a lot of damage with this. And then you're going to get to draw a card in your end phase, and you're going to get to send those spirits back to Hera, over to other Elestrals that might trigger receive effects. This is crazy that you're going to be able to do other things with those Thunder Spirits, still keeping them on board, having them have multiple uses. This is crazy. Look for this to be a really good card if you can build around this specifically. So that does it for our Frost and a little bit of Thunder. Now let's move on to Solar to round out Ares. We've got Nebulio, Champion of Ares. So this is a 3/2. You can Nexus 1 Solar. When you do, you can search your deck for a Champion of Ares and add it to your hand. So this is nice. Again, playing off Ares wanting to have Stadium artifacts or Ares on board. Excuse the dogs. And so you can Nexus that Solar, and you can be putting it on, moving it from an artifact to a stadium, really around anywhere. And then you're getting a search for another Champion of Ares added to deck, which is good because you can, like a Sprouter searching a Champion of Dionysus, you can get any Champion of Ares. And then we have Leobright, Champion of Ares. So finally giving Leobright other than just a bridge into Celestlio. So again, another Nexus effect to Nexus 1 Solar. When a Stadium rune or Artifact rune receives Solar this way, you can target and destroy a face down rune. So this is really interesting, and I like how Ares is playing off having your Stadium up or having empowerments with the artifacts. And you're bouncing around these Solar Spirits, hopefully adding extra Solar on your board so you can be able to bounce around and do extra things with them. And, targeting and destroying some face down runes. I like that we're staying in the face down section of this, so we're not popping face up divines and artifacts that are already up. But I think this could be a really good card. It's not too strong as a 2-drop. 6 is a good stat, especially when you're wanting to be gaining extra stat buffs from your stadiums or artifacts. So I think this is a really that doesn't force you to have to go into Celestlio, because I think that's one thing that's been present in that we are trying to push from the 2 to the 3 drop pretty quick and not really having something to do with the 2 drop. So I think this is a really good thing that you could go into 2 drop. You could go into this 2 drop off of a regular Nebulio since it can search the Leobright, add that Leobright to hand, and then you can go into this and not even need to use the Nebulio Champion of Ares. So this is a really cool card. I think it's going to some good play, and I'm excited for an actual Solar 2-drop Leobright that's going to do something other than just bridge. And then here we got a card that I called, and I'm happy that it's here and not something else, in Helios, Champion of Ares. So we're still sticking with that Lith effect to be able to normal cast with 2 of its spirits, so 2 Solar, and this one requires Ares to be enchanted. So this is nice. normal champion lith effects requiring the associated divine. And then when you cast this Helios, you can cast an Armament of Ares from your deck empowering this Helios. So this allows you to cast either the Spear of Piercing or the Sword of Vitality directly onto this Helios from your deck. So it's Argo for 2 less, basically, just to be able to on cast. Yes, you can Gorgons it to prevent it from doing this, but this is really nice. I think this is cool. Gives the Helios a little bit of a buff, as Helios has always been the more balanced stat-wise effect, but being able to put an armament on it, I think, is a really cool effect. Gets your artifacts onto the field, so then you can start playing off of them with other cards as well. And then we finally got the Ruminous Champion of Ares. That the art had been revealed from the last Ruminous Rumble, but we did not know the effect, and so now we have our Ruminous Champion of Ares. You can disenchant 1 solar from this Ruminous in order to search your deck for a solar rune and add it to your hand. You can disenchant solar from your Stadium rune or Artifact rune in order to change the position of an Elestral. So this really plays off the Lumaru, as the Lumaru can Nexus spirits, and then you can disenchant from stadiums or artifacts in order to special send into the Ruminous. So if you've already got stadiums, other artifacts playing off of the Lumaru and the Colosseum of Ares, being able to get those extra spirits enchanted to cards, you're going to have an extra spirit on this Ruminous already, and then you can choose which way you want to disenchant, whether you want to search for a solar rune, or you want to disenchant, or if you want to get extra solar onto stadium artifacts, and you can change positions of an Elestral, get over. This is really cool, and I think that we're going to see actually good play out of both Lumaru Champion of Ares and both Original Ruminous and Champion of Ares Ruminous in this set. Moving on, we've got another create a card, this time another lunar card. The community, especially the ones who have gotten the chance to create a card, really love the Lunar Pantheon. Sorry that the Lunar Pantheon isn't as good competitively right now, but there's a lot of new lunar stuff being added, so I really like that we're trying more things for Lunar to do, and this card is really interesting. It's a 4/1, 1 lunar in Vermalord. So Vermalord gets +1 attack for each lunar enchanting it, so he's actually a 5/1 when enchanted with a lunar. And then when he is in attack position, or when this Vermalord in attack position is destroyed in battle, you can enchant up to 3 lunar from your underworld to your field. So this is really nice as you're getting spirit recursion in lunar and being able to get spirits back on field to play with stuff. Helps with suppression, helps with boosting stats under Temple of the Moon, or a Vermalord just boosting its own stats. If you had 2 Vermalord and you crash 1 into something, you can then enchant 3 lunar to the other Vermalord and get more attack on it. This is a really interesting Rise from the Shadows target, as you're going to be able to enchant stuff as well, and then get Vermalord back out, sitting at a 5. Really interesting. Could play really well with Comalis and being able to search, because you're setting up Nexus Bank with the Vermalord then. Really interesting card. Good thing it is a 1 defense, because this is a really good card, and full moon battle trick to enchant 2 more to it is really tough. This card with its own effect and Temple of the Moon looks really scary, and so that cryoblastable defense is very, very good to see. So that was all of our Elestrals revealed. Now let's move into some of the runes that we got, and we're going to talk about our fire runes, which are crazy. We've got a new 3-cost fire artifact rune in Tongs of Hephaestus. So this is our first 3-cost artifact rune in the game. And so this Tongs of Hephaestus can only empower a fire Elestral. So this is interesting as it only applies to fire Elestrals. You can't use this card on any other Elestral. They have to have fire in their enchantment. So it does limit your options, which is good for a strong effect like this. The empowered Elestral gets +4 attack and +2 defense. So if we go back to the Infornax Champion of Hephaestus, if you're empowering that Infornax with with a Tongs, it's getting 8 attack and 4 defense. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And if you're using it in a way that allows you to use spirits from the underworld to play this card, and you're not just taking straight from spirit deck to cast, you get 2 of these on there. You just got +16 +8. Insane. And then when the empowered Elestral destroys an Elestral in battle, which it probably is going to, if you're using this card right, probably a good chance that it will, you can discard a card in order to target and destroy a card. So you're already buffing it up immensely with the Tongs of Hephaestus. You're probably going to be able to get over something and destroy it. So, and then you can discard a card. So this can play really well into the fire discard strategy, because then you can send stuff to the underworld to then get over, to then ascend into another Elestral, using like Brimscale, ascend over a fire Elestral, and start that chain of bigger guys. And then when you do that, you also would trigger to target and destroy a card. So yes, it's targeting, but it's destroying any card, face up, face down, whatever. This card is crazy. And as well, if you're using this, say you would Brimscale back over this, and then you cast a Corvusmith the next turn and return this to your deck, well, then it's just Eruption. You just Eruption to your opponent for 3. This card is crazy. I'm glad this is just a fire thing, but it's a good thing that original Eruption is banned, because we can't have 6 copies, actually 9 copies of Eruption here at this point. This is crazy. And speaking of Eruption, we've got our new Eruption, Hephaestus's Jealousy. Absolutely awesome artwork here. This card's awesome looking. I love it. So this is a fire counter rune, 1 cost, enchant fire to your field and fire to an opponent's field. So you're getting spirits on your own field as well as on your opponent's board. So it's interesting, again, Hephaestus and like the Vesuvituga, this is the first time we're seeing being able to enchant your spirits to your opponent's side of the field. And then until the next turn, opponents cannot play runes using fire from their field. During this turn's end phase, you can destroy each fire enchanted card that is not a fire card. So, this card reads pretty ridiculous. So we're moving away from the burn strategy in Eruption, but we're still keeping kind of that Eruption in destroying something. With fire, so you're going to be able to get extra spirits on your side of the board, so this can help trigger Boltuga's effects, trigger Vesuvituga effects. This plays really nice with the Vesuvituga as well, because you're searching this with the Vesuvituga, so you're going to have this ready, and the Vesuvituga, of course, can add spirits as well. So if you're using these in combination, you get up to 3 fire spirits onto your opponent's side of the board wherever you need to put them. And then they're not able to play runes using fire from their field until the next turn. So if you're using this on their turn, on your opponent's turn, you're putting fire onto their guy. You're putting fire onto their guys, potentially risking some extra damage for you. But then once they go to end phase, you're saying pop, 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 because there's not really good ways to get that fire off. There are ways, so you can't play the rune with the fire, so you can't siphon it off to play a rune or like a counter rune or an ambrosia or something. But what they can do is they can nexus that spirit. So if they have a big Elestral that non-fire Elestral that you've just put a fire onto, well, they could be able to use things like Altar of Stars to nexus spirits around. So if they want to move it to something that's already going to go down because they can't protect it because you added multiple fire spirits, they want to send it to a smaller Elestral that isn't going to have as much use for them, or an artifact rune, stadium rune, something like that. They can do that with an Altar of the Stars, or say an Asteria's Starfall. They can use that to nexus, as well as switching out spirits. So it's a lot of interesting stuff that can be done. There is definitely counterplay to this, but you're threatening to pop at least one card from their field each time you play this. And if you're playing it on your turn, well, it doesn't matter. They can't use fire from their field anyway. They're not going to do, they're not really going to do anything as much on your turn unless they're doing one of those two plays. They have more options if you're using this on their turn, but it still really threatens to get over some of those things that maybe you can't out on your turn, but you already have this set where you can put that fire on there, say, well, I'm just going to not worry about this. I'll deal with the smaller stuff, or I'll just sit here, build my board, wait, I'll go ahead and pop your guy, and then you've got to completely rebuild the next turn. So this is crazy, and don't worry about the moths because Eruption, Hephaestus' jealousy exists, so let them waste all their spirits, get their board set up, and then just jealousy them. Then going back to Ares, we've got three new runes here. We've got our second Armament of Ares, the Sword of Vitality. So this is 2-cost solar rune. You get +1 on the Empowered Elestral, and then when this Armament of Ares receives one or more solar, so when it is cast, you can give the Empowered Elestral +2 attack. So the turn it is cast, you're getting +3 attack for that Elestral. And then you may also return 1 solar from your underworld to your spirit deck, so then you're also getting some healing. So this is really nice. You can continually, you can trigger this if you're able to use the effects that are adding more solar onto board or nexus onto this Sword of Vitality. You can start buffing up, exponentially in 2s with that. So this is pretty cool card. I like the options Ares is getting. We'll see kind of what's more useful, spear versus sword. Sword costs 1 extra, but you are getting healing, so we'll see exactly what it is, but I think this is going to be really interesting. And then we have the second stadium for the Coliseum of Ares, the Armory. So 1 cost solar, when a champion of Ares enters battle, its controller can nexus up to 2. So again, another entering battle effect, being able to nexus a couple extra spirits. And then when an enchanted solar artifact is sent from the field to the underworld, its owner can return it from the underworld to their hand. So if you have an artifact that isn't necessarily needed to get over something, you can use this card. And you have this stadium up, you can enter battle. Nexus the spirits off of, say, the Sword of Vitality, send it to the underworld. Well, then it triggers to come back because it just went from the field to the underworld. You can return it to your hand. And so you really haven't lost it. You could still get over whatever the Elestral was in battle. And then you've got this to use for the next turn, re-triggering some healing, re-triggering the 3+3 stat buff. It's really interesting. I'm not sure if I like this or the Coliseum of Ares, the Battlegrounds more, but this is interesting. I think it's a good way to play off of the artifacts and keep recurring those artifacts, so maybe you don't have to play max copies of them. And then the last card we have here is a really interesting card for Ares. It is Reinforcements of Ares. So it's a 2 solar cost counter rune. It allows you to special cast a champion of Ares from your hand using only spirits enchanting your Colosseum of Ares and or Armament of Ares. So, like this picture kind of shows, we've got a 2-cost Heliolith champion, a 3-cost Celestlio, a 3-cost Dragalis, even though he does cost 1 fire, so be aware of that. How to get a fire on one of your Armament of Ares, or don't worry about it. But you can use this card to just straight up special cast a champion of Ares from your hand. So whatever you've got into your hand, if you've got Celestlio, Dragalis, Heliolith, Draco Ray, whatever you've got, get it into your hand, and then you can just straight up special cast them. As long as you've got artifacts and stadiums built up with enough spirits to cast those guys, you can just straight up special cast them. Really interesting card. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to play, if it's going to be kind of one of those, it's a good card when you see it at the right time, but it's not always the best card to play. It is a counter rune, so you have to have it set. Save it to have a counter rune that you can play on your turn versus something you're playing on your opponent's turn. You'll have to see. It would be good for those times that you're wanting to build up spirits and you've got something big attacking into you that is either going to hit you for a lot of damage at first, or you can then you can cast this and cast something out, but that's going to require having those extra spirits on your board on like a stadium already. So it's a little bit of a comeback core card, could be a little bit of a win more card. Not completely sold on the card, but it is very interesting and something really cool that plays with the Ares deck really well. So that was all of our new reveals. So it looks like we've got the full arts and everything. Reverse stellar still need to be revealed. We've got quite a bit of lunar here. So we've got the Hypnosum that we did not see. We've got an unknown one stage lunar, and then a potential 2-stage lunar line. These are all new cards, 3 of these being creator cards down here. So maybe we just had maybe these are creator cards and more lunar. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creator cards so far, so that could be it for the creator cards this set, but we'll see. Interested to see what this is. I'm guessing it will be completely new Elestrals, since it is between completely new Elestrals, but we'll have to see what shows up there. We've got some more wind and potentially frost in here. I feel like the Snow Waddle line is probably the beginning of the frost, so I'm going to say that this is probably some more wind cards. I do believe I have marked, 53. So we know that the Toxic Swarm and Cyclovenom Champion of Hermes should be coming here, so I'm just taking a guess that that's 52 and 53, as he would come after the Champions of Aeolus. We'll see next week once they do the reveals. On, I believe, Monday and Wednesday, they're going over both of the starter decks. So I believe the Hera starter deck is coming first, and the Ares starter deck is coming second. I forget who is matched up on each of those. So I believe it's Hera and Aeolus, so we might see this on Monday. Wednesday, we'll see Ares and Vesuvitude, and then Hephaestus. So we'll see what pops in here. I'm guessing a couple Champions of Hermes. Probably not all Champions of Hermes down here. Probably some just new Wind Elestrals, maybe just forms or completely new. Unsure, not really anything teased for what's showing up there exactly just yet. And then we've got one more water card. This definitely should be water, as Quackle should definitely be the start of the Hera in Thunder. Unless this is a Champion of Zeus, but I'm pretty sure that Quackle, Champion of Hera, is going to be the start of our Thunder side. So this is probably a hollow rare, 1 stage one stage water, so interested to see what's there. And then again, we don't know what this is. I'm guessing more Champions of Hephaestus, so look out next week for that. Probably, my guess is the Rumagem, Scavagem, just because we have Rumacol, Scavacol. So why not give him both since he's got Boltuga, Vesuvituga, Smoltuga, Krakatuga. I think that's probably where we're going to be sitting. All right, let me know what your favorite reveals from this week were, and I will see you back next week to review the starter decks in full.